Hello and welcome to Reading the Game, the show where I read the game, you get to listen to me read the game, I get one of my 10,000, and we all get to learn something about our favourite games. Today, we're reading from Library of Ruina again, and we're on to the Dawn Office, which is nice and short. There's only 2 bad boys in here, so this is gonna be a sweet and short video. These poor two, though. They had to put up with the most annoying character! Can we take a moment to love Yuna's drip? I'm a sucker for butterflies. I like butterflies on things, so the cello case with the butterflies, very, very, very cool. Let's see what she's got to say. Audio transcript of testimony from District 22, Resident 1. File name #S-0019XXXX/XX/25. Omitted. I think it was last Monday. Derry said something strange to me. They told me that they made a contract with someone, and they're scared they might break it. They said they don't know what horrifying penalty they'll have to face upon breaking the contract. I tried to calm them down, saying they should be fine, as long as they don't actually breach the contract, but Derry got ticked off and complained that it's unfair how they're supposed to comply with unfavourable terms hidden in the fine print. Then they broke into tears, saying they're doomed anyway. They apparently agreed to do 3 tasks in exchange for gaining power. Omitted. Audio transcript of testimony from District 22, Resident 2. File name S-0021 XXX/XX/25. Do I have to recall that messed up memory? Alright. If it's necessary to prevent another incident from happening, I guess there's no choice. You can record it, sure? I don't remember everything that happened, actually. That day was just like any other, except Dreary showed up in the streets after going missing for a few days, looking awfully gaunt. Other than that, the weather was normal, and the streets were the same as always. I know that's when the incident started. Dreary was walking around the streets as they mumbled something, but they didn't seem to be heading to a specific destination. It's like they were staring off into space and forcefully dragging their feet along. They said strange things like something keeps coming or boiling. They were always a bit of a weirdo, so that didn't bother me too much. But then, Dreary's body began swelling up, and all I could think at that moment was how funny they looked. Expanded like a balloon. The scene was that unrealistic. Maybe it was the shock of confronting an unbelievable situation paralyzing the human brain, or the brain beginning to believe that it's only a dream and marveling at that scene, but I was just standing still, staring at what was going on. Am I really in reality? But before I could gather myself up, the incident happened. Dreary's body blew up and weird needles went. Miss Madrid, who was standing in front of me, was struck with one of the needles, and her body swelled up and exploded into a shower of needles, just like Dreary did. I luckily managed to get away without getting hit by any of the needles. Lucky person. I ran into this office without turning back once, and now I don't think I can get back there. I wonder if anyone else lived. If my friend Mijin's alright. If my house is fine. I'm curious, but I just can't go back. I can't do it. What do I do? I don't want to go back to. The interviewee's breath became coarse and unstable afterwards. The recording was suspended as it was deemed that the interview could no longer proceed. I think this isn't the first time we've been told about some kind of strange distortion like this, obviously. We've encountered a few ourselves, but this is the first time we've had like a fixer had to go deal with this kind of thing. And this is also one of the few pages we've had that isn't from the actual person's point of view. I imagine Yuna learned about all this just before going on the job to deal with these weird needle issues, so that she knew what she was dealing with, basically. So, and it's also, again, very fun to also see bits of this world from a very normal point of view. This is just a normal-ass guy who had a friend who did something, who signed a contract he maybe shouldn't have, which seemed to make him a victim of a distortion of some kind? I don't know 100% what to make of it. It was also a very long time I did this bit of the story, but I do remember that very badass image of Yuna on the battleground and all these blood and guts everywhere. You know, the usual cool Ruiner image. Shall we see what good old Salvador has to say? Case name, 1000 Needles. Serial code DN-00113. Grade Urban Legend. Date of occurrence, XXX/XX/21. There's also interesting in this game that they don't really want to timeline anything. Timelining things in a lot of fiction does make it a lot more complicated, and if you're going to make any mistakes in your continuity, it's probably going to be in the timeline, so it doesn't surprise me that we get these XXXX things, so that you don't have to timeline it yourself. You're like, these things happened, probably around this time, but we're not putting numbers to it because it's easier. Description. This document is a compilation of relevant information on the case of the 1000 Needles, which occurred in the backstreets of District 22. While a clear conclusion on this case is yet to be made, it is speculated to be a case of the distortion, based on the apparent inability to confirm the cause or analyze the composition. Case report. Entity A01, the first apparent source of the incident, was wandering in the backstreets of District 22 before swelling and exploding. Numerous needles were dispersed upon the explosion, flying in all directions. The needles, which struck onto buildings' walls, caused the site of impact to melt and crack. When a human was struck with one of the needles, they were transformed into A-02, going through the same bizarre process of detonation. A-01 did. The orange symbol on the nape of A01's neck was also found on the needles discharged from its body. When I arrived at the scene after taking a request, the bits of flesh scattered around the scene began to merge into one giant body using a brainstem focus resonator, becoming a 3-meter tall, 10-foot mass that I will refer to as A-03. A-03 began throwing large needles, the length of which varied from 1 to 3 meters. Unlike the small needles fired from the explosion of A-01 and A-02, that could only leave small dents in building structures, the giant needles flung by A-03 caused buildings to helplessly melt. In addition, local residents who stared into the entity's eyes or holes in its bodies soon produced boiling sounds before turning into A-02. So I had to forbid people from observing it closely. A-01 visited OO office to give a request 4 days prior to the incident. Refer to audio transcript of testimony of a fixer of OO office. Judging by what they said, such as made a deal with the devil and terrible things will happen if you break the contract, it is speculated that yesterday's promise is behind the incident. Audio transcript of testimony of a fixer from OO office. Or double O office, I suppose. We could do this as a common red reference. No, that's triple O's, that's O's. Double O's the Gundam, not... Weeb fail. File name #S-0012 XXX/XX/23. I'm fine. Can I just talk like this? Oh, okay, got it. When was it? A person visited our office last Wednesday. If my memory serves me right, they introduced themselves as an ordinary resident of the back streets of District 22. They said they urgently needed help. There were huge bags under their eyes, and their hair was a tangled mess. Their eyes were lifeless and blurry, and there was a sort of symbol on their neck, as if they'd been attacked by a stigma workshop product. The desperation was palatable. They couldn't even walk straight, and they were straining to approach me with their awkward steps. I managed to calm them down, and they said, "I'm sorry. I'm not sure how I should explain this." In short, they made a contract with a devilish person of some kind, and they're scared they might break the contract. So they were now asking us to take care of the devil so it can't kill them as punishment. I still don't get what that was about, even though I'm talking about it. To be frank, I just couldn't understand what they were saying. Not just because their level of knowledge and manner of speech was lamentably inferior, no. All they uttered was a series of simple words, but the splendid image delivered in those hysteric words they let out, like they were possessed by something. I can't dare describe them. They kept saying confusing things like, "We'll skewer people's heads and make a necklace out of them to offer it." They kept getting closer. They're multiplying in numbers. They're approaching me from inside, all with a mysteriously bright glint in their eyes. Oh, our office records, counseling with our clients by principle. You'll see how confusing the whole situation was if you just give this file a listen. Don't worry, we recorded them with the client's consent and everything, so there's nothing illegal about this. Refer to evidence 15-100 office counseling audio recording. What can I do, really? The whole deal with the devil thing sounds too unrealistic. I honestly thought they were lying, so I just made up an excuse to turn them away. And that was probably the wisest thing they ever did. Yesterday's Promise. I feel like that's a name that's come up a couple times, and I'm very curious about it. I've hit Star of the City, and I still haven't really heard it much. But it seems they're very much they caused a distortion for this person breaking a contract. However, this kind of implies that the distortion was already affecting them, because they were already going mad, and maybe they'd already broken the contract by that point. Maybe they hadn't. We don't know. We don't know any of the details. This whole thing was a little confusing and just a nice taste of how batshit crazy it can get in this city. Outside of the gang wars and syndicates and offices, this is just how weird the supernatural side could get, and I feel like that gives you a really good taste of this is just one of those weird things. It was urban legend class. Urban legend class, that's not even that high. Urban myth, urban legend, urban plague, urban nightmare, Star of the City. Urban legend is not even that high, and this was like something that almost destroyed an area, which... Oh, as much as I'm sad we don't get much about Salvador and Una themselves, it does give you a lot about the world again, about building up just how terrifying this city truly is. And that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. If you have not already, I would highly appreciate it if you would leave a like on this video and subscribe to the channel. Thank you so much. I hope you learned something about your favorite game today. Goodbye.